Well, we are 20 days into 2023 and we haven't done a tier list yet. So let's sort that out. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Big Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. And yeah, as I mentioned, we haven't done a tier list. There's been a lot of changes in the game in the new Crisis cards. It's definitely changed the meta. Leaders and leaderships and affiliations that were at the top have maybe moved down a little bit, and ones that were near the middle, not necessarily at the bottom, have definitely moved up. So we thought we would take a look at every leadership in the game and put them into a tier list. And joining me for this, of course, is Mr. Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how the hell are you doing, sir?
I'm pretty good. Like, your intro threw me off for a second, but then I remembered that YouTube involves time travel.
It does involve time travel. Yes, yes.
Because there haven't been 20 days in January yet.
Not yet, but when this goes out, there will have been, Quinn. Leaders, obviously, huge, important part of the game, Quinn. Really, whilst you can play unaffiliated, they're what really give each sort of team their flavour and their unique play style, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like they're the anchor point that the entire affiliation pivots around, right?
Should be the anchor point that every affiliation pivots around.
We're talking ideal world.
And we've got quite a few now. Let me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33,
31.
34, 35.
I can't count.
Yeah, 35 different leaderships, but more characters than that can be leaders because of Convocation, obviously. And obviously, we've got, I know, those bloody wizards. We've obviously got Emma Frost as well, who recently been released, but we don't have any details for her yet. So let's jump over, Quinn, to the tier maker. S through to D, standard, tier list things. There's that one guy who doesn't understand it, but it is what it is.
He understands it. He just hates it because it's Japanese and therefore foreign.
He does hate it. So basically, Quinn, the way that we're going to be ranking these, B is kind of that central point, isn't it? It is a leader, leader affiliation leadership that it is perfectly fine, right? It's balanced. Nothing really needs to be done with it. Good work, AMG. A tier is that step above there. Do you know what? They really benefit from these changes with the Crisis cards. Maybe it's because they can go a little bit wider than some other affiliations, but they are what I would call the sort of above that sort of middle bit of the bell curve. And you've then got the S tier, which borderline are like, guys, if you do some janky things with this, then they're a little bit broken and probably need looking at in terms of, not, I hate to use the word nerf, but, at the very, very top, basically, and maybe should be a consideration for
they might need to
some potential changes. Yeah. Then the other way down, C tier, again, is that like, do you know what? Yeah, the changes have hurt them a little bit. The new Crisis cards, it's not optimal for them, but still serviceable.
You can still make it work.
You're still going to be able
right
to make it work. Yeah. And then D tier is like, and I want to put this out there first of all, it's like, nothing is unplayable in this game, but it's like, this affiliation, this leadership needs some love.
One moment. There are at least 3 things in this game that are unplayable.
No, you can play anything, right? People play for different reasons, but well, you know what I mean. I mean,
technically, they are playable in the godforsaken hellscape that is the unlimited format.
So, with all that down, Quinn, let's jump into the first one. She-Hulk, A-Force, 6 threat leader, so very expensive. Leadership that basically every time one of your characters takes damage, you get to give a power out. So it's all about power distribution, isn't it? The Air Force leadership. How are they faring at the moment with these changes with the Crisis cards? Where do you sort of see She-Hulk's Air Force team being at the moment?
I think, unfortunately, the big thing that A4 suffer from is the fact that their only leader is a sixth threat, because they have a lot of really good sort of higher threat, four threat, five threat options in Affiliation that you're really going to struggle to include if you're bringing She-Hulk every game.
Yeah,
And
it
obviously,
really does hurt them a little bit, doesn't
you've
it?
got Special Delivery, which is an absolutely brilliant card to boost up She-Hulk, get her into the fight a bit earlier. But there are a lot of there are a lot of things in the game that can kill her very, very quickly. And
Yeah,
like, given that she's got basically no defensive tech, like she can bodyguard for other people, but that doesn't really help her. Uh, like I think she does struggle a bit, and therefore I think I'd put them at B just because I think on its own they'd be C tier, but then their cards and characters bring them up to B tier. If they had a leader that wasn't sixth threat, they'd probably go into A tier.
no, I think that's fine. And we have to remember, guys, we're not judging the character, we're judging their leadership, the affiliation, the characters they've got access to, just how competitive, an Air Force roster be at the moment. And I would agree, Quinn, is that he's one of those affiliations where you tend to stick with Air Force members because there are benefits of that.
There are very tangible benefits. Yeah.
So yeah, and they've got a good roster of characters. Next up, Thor, who I think still has one of the best leaderships in the game. Basically, meaning that their entire team, if you play it correctly, can be immune to things like stagger, which is absolutely huge, and then just being able to chip away at that damage and healing themselves throughout the round is really, really good.
My favourite is when a character goes down to 1 health and you immediately heal them back up to 2, so they can't be thrown into something to immediately die.
Yeah, or benefit from Odin's blessing as well, right?
That's another one.
So they've also got some nice tactics cards. They've got some great characters. We can talk about including Bill in there now as well, who is an astounding 4-threat character.
Very good.
I don't think they are in the realms of like, oh, these are absolutely broken.
No,
but I do believe now with the new characters, I think they're A tier for me. I think they're in a very, very good spot.
Even like A+.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, the closer to the letter is the higher up the pecking order they are in that tier. So you'll see how that works.
We'll probably forget we said that halfway through the video, and it won't matter anymore. But
exactly that. Yeah. On to Avengers next. We've got 3 leaders, so one of only 2, I think, affiliations that have 3 leaders with like actual leaderships printed on their card, right?
Obviously, my mind is now racing to find out what the second was. Oh, right, yeah.
Cabal. Yeah, Avengers and Cabal. So the
OG... I thought you were going to go down the other route, because now there's 3, technically.
With no, actually printed on their card is what I said.
Printed on their card,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So OG leader of the game, or one of the OGs of the game, Captain America, Steve Rogers. Very, very solid. He's only 4th threat himself. He brings a great leadership. He's got access to good characters. Let's be honest, some great characters.
Half the game is an Avenger.
Yeah, I mean, so, and it's a roster that's, always being filled up. I think they're in a slightly... I think Steve's Avengers are in a slightly worse position than what they were before the changes, and I don't
they
think
definitely are from the way I used to play them before the changes.
And I don't think it's necessarily because they have any one problem with any of those given scenarios, because that's the kind of thing that Steve brings, right? He's like, he is the jack of all trades, right? He can turn up to any situation, and you're going to be in with a fighting chance, right, of being able to deal with it. However, I just think it's that everything else, or quite a few things around him, have been raised up, and therefore, by proxy, he is then that little bit lower than what he is. So for me, it's kind of like...
There's also some changes regarding like the crises themselves, threat values in particular.
He does not like, and the Avengers do not like the new books, do they?
New Montesi, not only is it a worse attack type for them because they don't have the greatest like Mystic base, but also none of their tricks work on it anymore. So you can't Friday AI it, you can't Mantle of the Black Panther it, you can't binary form it.
No, that is true.
Researcher scores less and is now 15 threat rather than 16, so double Hulk is kind of out the window.
Yeah. So I think they're still solid though. I would say that they are B tier, but above She-Hulk, but above She-Hulk's Air Force, I would say. I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah.
So second leader for the Avengers, it's another Captain America, this time Sam Wilson. His stock was super high, then it dropped back down with some changes, and not really changes, but introduction of new characters. Malekith basically just swatted every 3 and 2 threat member of the Avengers out of the way. I think the stock in Sam Wilson's Avengers has gone up. I still don't think you play Sam spam to like the 7-8 wide sometimes that people were getting, but I think they're in a really, really good spot at the moment. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think they, rather than their stock rising, I think the falling stock of like characters and affiliations around them is what's brought them back into the fray. Also, we have to remember the recent resurgence of space reality Thanos definitely gives him a bump.
Yeah,
because there's going to be more killing. A lot of the crisis changes have moved away from favouring tall lists. I think it's fair to say.
I think that is fair to say. Single objectives are no longer a thing. You
so,
can't just control 2 points of the board and get all the points, right? So
more bodies on the board means more points scoring. Also, generally, crises are slightly faster scoring, which means you can close out a game a little bit quicker before all your bodies sort of stop edge listing.
Yeah, and I think that's what Sam wants to do, really, isn't it?
And I think
I was going to say it's not just the crisis cards, though. It's also the fact that, let's be honest, Malekith's had the nerf, right? So
Malekith's had nerf. Steve isn't as good as well.
Yeah, Steve isn't as good. So, I mean, I think he's above Steve right now in the pecking order for Avengers. I don't think Sam's Avengers are in a better position than Thor's Asgard, and I can't quite believe I'm saying that. But I think the recent releases and the upcoming releases for Asgard have really helped them. And we still haven't seen one of them, potentially.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, imagine Ulik just ends up being the most busted, 2 threat in existence. I'd probably want to put Sam at the top of B rather than in A,
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
He's probably going to stay towards that top end of B throughout this list as well. Whereas I think we'll see Steve sort of trickle down ever so slightly over the course of it.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And just for clarification, Sam's leadership, basically, whenever an affiliated character is dazed or KO'd, you get to make a short move, you get to remove a condition, and you get to heal one, basically, or remove a damage, is how it works.
Just to clarify, it's allied, not affiliated.
Sorry, allied characters, not affiliated.
Because there's a very big difference there.
There is a big difference, yeah. And the last, and albeit the saddest leader of the Avengers, Hulkbuster, 6 threat. Basically, it's reduction in collision damage. Woo! Look, at the moment, they're not in a good. He's not in a good spot.
One playtester got real mad in a game against Magneto, and this made Hulkbuster. And also, I'm gonna bring back the alphabet just this once.
Okay, D is for
does bleed.
Does bleed because it's a man in a suit, and he shouldn't bleed. Next up, then, Quinn, and by the way, D tier. Next up, we got Corvus with, I think, quite possibly one of the worst leaderships in the game already. And then add to that the fact that it's not printed on his card; it is a tactics card that you have to take as one of your 5. Yeah. You guys know by now we do not like this. It's not viable if you want to play at any competitive level. So for me, it's D tier, and I'm going to say it's worse than Hulkbuster because of the opportunity cost of it, Quinn.
Okay, but I will posit the question to you because, as we've spoken about before, it's my belief, and I believe your belief as well, that there is going to be a sweeping rules change at some point that means leader cards suddenly work the same as Convocation and therefore don't take up a slot in the 5, right?
Yes.
In that world, where does Corvus go?
C.
I'd put him low B,
Okay, it's potatoes.
Black Onslaught's like a real fun card when you get it off, and you can only really play it in Corvus Black Order, not Thanos
you can
Black Order.
Yeah, no, that is true. Next up then is Thanos, and other than Convocation, He is in a unique position, I believe, Quinn, still, in that he is the only single leader that essentially has access to two leaderships, one on the front side of his card, one on the back side of his card. But we are judging them as a whole, and we are judging then, Black Order under Thanos and how good they are right now. So just to clarify, Thanos' leadership on the front side, KO an enemy, and you gain a VP. On his other side, it's like take damage and get rerolls, is it? Something
Take
like
damage for rerolls. Also, very important to note, he loses Cosmic Portal when he flips. So
that is true.
If you're playing against Thanos, flip him as quickly as you possibly can.
Now, Black Order, we know Thanos is good outside of Black Order. Thanos, or Black Order, sorry, have had new characters. But they've also had some changes to the cards that they want to access, right? Two of the big cards that they want to use being the space and reality are now restricted, which basically means if you choose to take them...
Less so in Black Order specifically.
I think in Black Order, yeah, but if you choose to take either of them...
because it's Space Mind, Thanos, and then Reality Corvus.
And then Reality Corvus, yeah. But they do have options now, right? You don't, the play always used to be move Thanos up, teleport somebody, advance them, do this, Corvus murders them. And whilst I think that's still a viable play, it's not the only play they've got now with the new characters. I haven't played against Black Order lately, but I think the one thing that hurts Black Order now more than ever before is the speed at which some of these wider teams can score points.
I mean,
you look at Sam, you look at Star-Lord, and if they want to, they can almost turn into Wakanda and not roll dice, right?
Yeah,
Pick the objectives up, get out of there.
Depending on how each player approaches the game, one person can completely run away on points and just not engage. I mean, it wasn't recorded or streamed anywhere, but we had that game of Brotherhood versus Asgard, didn't we, Rich?
We did, yep.
Effectively, that's what it boiled down to, because you were beating me on attrition quite severely.
Oh, heavily,
but I just got enough scrolls and kept standing on gammas and throwing you off them in order to just score me out round 3.
You managed to eke out enough points, and I just didn't manage to get quite enough damage out where the attrition game didn't really work.
And that, I think, is a very looming threat over any game Black Order plays now, where if your opponent just changes tack and doesn't engage with you, you're going to have real big issues.
So for me, Quinn, I think they are sort of B-, C+ at the moment in terms of where they are.
I think they're going into C tier, and just to clarify, this is Black Order, led by Thanos. This is not Thanos as a character, because Thanos as a character with space reality is S+ tier and sorely needs addressing, because he's just not fun to play against.
Quinn really doesn't like it.
No, I don't, because it's skillless.
Up next, one of my old loves of the game and the affiliation that I may be toying with potentially of being my affiliation for the first half of 2023. It is Brotherhood of Mutants. We've got 2 leaders in here. We've got Magneto and we've got Mystique. I've been playing a lot of Magneto-led Brotherhood, Quinn, of late. I've played quite a few games with them, and I've got to say, it's real tough. Ooh. It is really tough with Magneto at the moment. Having that 6-threat leader really, really hurts. Now, what I will say is because they have a 2-threat in Toad, they can play a little bit more of a control, VP-focused game as opposed to the attrition game, which is pretty much how Magneto was played. But I don't think Brotherhood under Magneto are in a great spot at the moment, kind of for the same reasons with Thanos Black Order, really, in that the attrition game needs to be really good, or you need to be very clever and very precise with your placements and where when you play things and that sort of stuff. So
I think also there's a degree of just with attrition play is, I think just with the crises now, you can't go all in on attrition anymore.
So I think for me, Magneto, I don't quite know if he goes in the very top end of C tier or down the bottom of B tier. I'm thinking he's probably at the bottom end of B
I think
tier.
he's definitely ahead of Thanos just because he's got a
Yeah,
bit more game than Black Order. They're not wholly like,
yeah.
you
They've also
know,
got access to the characters as well, right? They've got 2 and 3 threat characters in abundance.
yeah,
So
but like if you need to, you can make a wider Mags team.
yeah,
I mean, I know you've
yeah.
been playing like Thanos and Witch with him and going like all out aggression. Maybe it's worth going down the avenue of like some cheaper characters in place of
No,
Thanos. See if you
it,
can
it
swarm.
it definitely is. It definitely is. But I still think that they're going to struggle a little bit. Mystique, on the other hand, Quinn, I
Or
think is in an
glow up of the century.
absolutely amazing position
And not
at the
only
moment.
because of the Crisis updates, but also the release of Blob and Pyro giving more affiliated 3 threats is a real boon.
Huge impact for them. They also get access to new Sabretooth as well,
Yeah.
who's also very, very good. So look, in a really, really good spot. I think overall, Quinn, she's probably one of the 2, 3 leaders in the game at the moment that I would say are the meta, and the top players who only care about winning. She's going to be one of the ones that they're playing. I think she goes into S tier at the moment. They're in a very, very good spot. Cabal next. Army game. We've got 3 leaders, starting out with my boy, Malekith.
Can you hear that? It's the world's smallest violin, Rich.
Now, contrary to popular belief, that was mine as well. Malekith is not in as bad a position as what people think. If you can manage to get a day's round 1 or some other way of getting a power onto Malekith, he is as efficient as he's ever been. But he's a 7 threat leader, and because of that, he suffers from all the same things that we discussed previously. Malekith himself, Quinn, is still such a good character and easily has the ability to take out 2, sometimes 3 characters in a single activation. He's also fast, and that should not be, sniffed at. I still think they're in a solid spot. I'd put them sort of somewhere in the middle B tier at the moment for Malekith's Cabal.
I think that's fair. Like, I've got no arguments against that. Like he's received a nerf. I think it was justified nerf, and I think he's just reasonable now.
Oh well, he was up here, right? He was S tier broken. Needs something
I think
doing.
now he's still a presence to be reckoned with. It's just that he's not a plug and play character. You actually have to think about what you're doing with him, which you should have to do with all characters in the game.
You should do. Yeah, you should.
Skill is a thing that's important.
What skill? OG Red Skull next, Quinn. 4 threat. Gain a power every time you do a damage with an attack, which is nice.
He's a bit dull, isn't he?
He is a bit dull. I think Red Skull Cabal as a whole, I don't think are in an amazing spot at the moment.
Well, they're in like a weird situation where Hydra exists and is just what Cabal probably should have been from the start.
Yeah, I would agree. So I think right now they're definitely not D tier. Is he? I think
he's probably low B.
It's probably low B. Like, it's absolutely serviceable. What he does have is some good characters around him, Quinn, as well in Cabal. Some very, very strong. And as it'll always be topped up with more characters as well.
Like,
right?
I think the thing that for me Skull is missing at the moment is just he needs to have like just a little glow up, a bit like Steve did. Because I mean, obviously Steve's changes were a bit more broad and sweeping, but why is his energy attack a 1 spender?
I think that should be a 0
that free.
cost.
Don't give it any power gain because it's already got the sap on it and leadership. But I don't really feel that there should be a requirement for paying power to use it.
No, I agree. He also does have a really nice tactics card as well.
Yeah, Conflict and is great.
Which, really in the world now we live in where, being able to double activate somebody is really nice because all you've got has disappeared. It's really, really good, especially on a big character like a Murdoch or another big hitter who can have a really big impact on the game. And And then lastly, then Quinn is Sin. So 3-threat leader. She's got a whole bunch of stuff she does with leadership. She was kind of in favour for a little bit. There was the Sin spam as well as the Sam spam, but it kind of never really took off. It kind of petered out, and I just think it's just not very. I just think it's not. It's kind of below par at the moment, isn't it? That
I think
leadership
there's
under
a
her.
couple issues with Sin that, if addressed, would definitely boost the stock. I quite like Sin as just like a fun little roster to mess around with when you spam rapid fire characters, because I think that's fun. But one, she's got a 4-6 health spread. You never want that. You
No,
never want to be backloaded. You always want to be front loaded. Uh,
and remember, we're
like
not talking about the character though, Quinn. We are talking
I
about
know, but
the
this in
leadership and
turn
things. But
would affect like changes her as a character would then in turn affect her as a leader and like the kind of
yeah,
affiliation she runs. Like if she wasn't backloaded, and then also the randomness of her leadership is like a big
yeah,
issue. Like taking
she's
something like that and then potentially getting nothing from it throughout an entire game is just it's rough.
yeah, definitely not D tier, but bottom end of C tier. I think you can have fun with it. I will say,
Yeah.
you were running a rapid fire roster for a little bit, weren't you? Which you quite enjoyed. So next up, then we've got Convocation. We've It's a bit of a weird one because it's two leaderships but one leadership kind of thing. So you've got the bump move one and then you've got the reroll one. Let's bundle them together, Quinn, right? Because it is a single thing. Where do we think Convocation are right now as an affiliation with the changes? Because I think they can be in a good spot.
I think they both are and aren't in a good spot. I think demons as a crisis has become a lot less popular, and
This is
therefore
true.
characters like Voodoo being immune to Incinerate is less valuable. Uh, Montesi being Mystic, massive boost,
Yes.
because previously it was their worst defense type energy because it wasn't affected by books. The other books, not those books or that book,
Yeah.
books.
They've got a great access to tactics cards, right? They've got some
Yeah,
great
I've got
tactics cards.
loads of them. Potentially Senators ends up being like another crisis they can do janky extract things on,
Yeah.
like they used to do with Lizard and Voodoo on Spider Infected. Potentially they end up getting like, 5 of the 6 Senators, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Because they run up there, they're on the bump side of the leadership, they grab the things, people hit them, they just keep leaving, right? Right, so yeah, I think combo definitely have legs. Just
I,
that,
I think they're in that sort of B tier, aren't they, at the moment? But
yeah,
it's kind
roughly.
of whereabouts in it they are,
I
really. And
reckon they're probably top end, like not quite Sam, but I think they're between Sam and Steve,
I
honestly.
think, yeah, I was sort of leaning towards there. Oh, no, not quite there. There we go. So we'll put the both of them in there. There is a preference to which side you use. I prefer the bump more than the other
The
one
bump is generally
because,
better, especially in early turns.
yeah. Crimson. And two very opposing leaders in Crimson with
Mm.
Kingpin and Daredevil. And I would argue there's always a case of including both leaders in a Crimson roster because they bring very, very different things. And that's kind of their adaptability. But under Kingpin at the moment, got some nice new characters in the form of the likes of Rhino. Plus, I think the changes to Gamma, I think, hurt them a little bit
I think
because
quite heavily, yeah.
they're not able to score as quickly as what
I
they
mean,
were
also
previously
the loss of single extracts means that extracts play a bigger part in the scoring game, which
in the
once
overall
again I think
scoring. Yeah,
is less beneficial for Kingpin. But his leadership is still very obnoxious. Like being able to
very
just
yeah,
sit on a point and win the point, even though you have the same number of models, is it's pretty good.
yeah. Well, sometimes you don't even need the same number of models, right? If you've got two and they've got three,
Yeah,
you still win, right? That's how obnoxious it is. So look, again, I think they're in. I think they're perfectly serviceable. I don't think they're under. I don't think they're over. For me, I think they're probably in a slightly better position than maybe She-Hulk is at the moment.
I think they are minimum A.
Oh, you think they're that high?
Yeah, like
Oh, wow.
Kingpin's leadership is still like uber obnoxious.
And let's not forget, we're not just talking about his leadership, but all according to plan.
All
He's
according to
still
plan. I mean,
one of
Kingpin
the
just as
best.
a character is one, he's an absolute brick. Two, he can lay down the hurt. I think he's pushing that S tier, but
I
like
don't think they're up in it. I think the
I don't
changes
think
have
he's
hurt them.
going in there, but I think he's top end of A.
I think we had them S tier before, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So I do think they
Obviously, there were
probably do need to
changes
come
that
down.
hurt them, but it just goes to show how strong that leadership is. That they're still in like minimum A tier, still trying to push into S with those negative changes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Shadowlands Daredevil, very different approach, very attrition based. Look, there's more things on the board now that are more spread out, right? Good,
Yeah.
positive, because his leadership only kicks in when people are contesting things. But as we've just spoke about, the attrition game is difficult. Now, he is a 4-threat leader. He does have access to affiliated 2 threats, which helps. But that affiliated 2 threat isn't a big hitter, Quinn, is it? He is chip damage and chipping away.
I mean, he's the embodiment of a little hitter.
Yeah. He's got some really good affiliated characters that can really help with the attrition game. But again, a lot of them are 4 threats. The likes of Killmonger, right? Who's really good in Shadowlands Daredevil, but he's also another 4 threat. So then you're already at 8 threat. And then you've got all these things on the board. It's a little bit difficult. I think he's going to struggle in the current meta. I hate using the word meta, but like, you know, in the current meta, just because he is so attrition focused, and I do think that will hurt him a little bit. Again, I still think he's definitely playable. I think he doesn't quite make it into B. And for me, he's kind of above
I think he's top
Black
end of
Order
C,
at the
yeah,
moment
I
with
think
the
so.
C tier. Yeah.
Do
dear.
we need to talk about this one?
Dormammu. Look, he's not very good.
He's never been very good.
He's never been great. Dark Dimension have never been particularly competitive. I like the uniqueness about it. They had a good stab at it. It didn't quite work. I will still say, Quinn, that I think Dark Dimension are in a better position than either Corvus's Black Order or Hulkbuster's Avengers, because you can put characters in there that are turned on round one and can be good. But I still think they're propping up, or at the very top end of D tier for Dark Dimension. Are you okay with that one?
So long as they're in D tier, I don't care where in D tier they go. That, like, can we stop talking about him?
Yeah.
Please.
Quinn, you've got one of the best characters in the game. You've got one of the best leaderships for attrition in the game.
And you've got so many good tactic cards.
How come he's D tier? Like,
he's not D tier, but he's
no, defenders are D tier.
They're very low C tier. Like, they've got more game than the 3 people in D tier.
I agree. So they can go at the top end.
No, put them bottom of C. Give him that ounce of respect.
Which affiliation, more than any other, needs something doing to them?
It's defenders, but they're still not in those dregs. They need the most help because the others are helpless. But, there's a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel for these guys. One release and suddenly they catapult back up into that A tier. They need that lifeline, They don't need, like, a full rework like the characters in D tier do, right?
That's fair enough.
They're slightly further away from the depths of, like, Oblivion
Some
And,
some tactics cards. Some tactics cards.
couple tactics cards in your set. Bam.
Yeah. My boys, Guardians of the Galaxy.
There we go. Ready to hear him gush for 5 minutes.
Well, no, we'll keep it brief. Look, you guys know all about Guardians. One of the reasons why I think Guardians are in such a good position right now, Quinn, is they have the same capacity as a Sam or indeed a Mystique. Arguably more so because they're one of the only, if not the only, affiliation with two affiliated two threats in them that are both very viable two threats. Yet they have, so they can go wide. They're not the easiest to kill because of the, you've got characters like Drax that has, the innate ability. You get rerolls on your defenses. You get rerolls on your dodge rolls as well with the winging it tokens. They're very mobile. They have some good tactics cards that can very, very quickly change a game. And they can do the attrition thing. So they're in this unique position, or fairly unique position, where they can be 6 wide and almost have the same damage output as some of the big, tall lists that we see, which you don't often get, especially when you start comboing things like Deadly Duo with the new characters that they've got, like Flash Thompson, Agent Venom. You've got Bill that's going to be in there as well. They are in a very, very good spot at the moment. I think they are S tier. They may even be the top of S tier. I don't know if they quite beat out Mystique.
I'm not gonna let you put them in S tier.
I don't quite think they beat out they beat out Mystique, but it's very, very good. Very, very good indeed.
I don't think they need addressing is the issue. I don't think either of them need addressing, really. Is the issue. I'm very reticent to actually put either of them in S tier. Because S tier feels to me like maybe this is a problem. But I don't think either of them necessarily are a problem.
Let me ask you the question.
Of the character that makes them a problem.
If you put reality mind Thanos in either of these rosters, they become
reality
a problem.
Space Thanos.
Sorry, reality space Thanos. Yeah, they become a big problem.
That isn't their fault, though, in my mind.
It's not, but I think they're still. Look, I think they're okay. Don't be that guy. I do it. Don't be that guy. Although I did play Reality Time Thanos, right?
Because I bullied you into it, because I'm very gradually making you a better person. Yes,
at a threat down. Let's talk about another great 3-threat leader, Quinn. A newer affiliation in Hydra. You already mentioned.
80.
I think Hydra under Strucker are either the top end of A tier or the bottom end of S tier at the moment. I think Spider-Woman...
Jess is an incredible addition.
Or Scarlet Witch as well, if you want to throw her in there for the mix.
I mean, why not both?
Why not both? I'm going to...
I don't think they're S tier. I think they're A tier, sort of in between Kingpin and Thor.
Oh, no. I think Hydra are... I think Hydra under Strucker are in a better position than Kingpin at the moment. Than Kingpin's Crimson. I think that...
I don't know why you're getting to make this decision, right? I'm the guy that plays Hydra. I also play Asgard. I know what their relative power levels are compared to each other.
I think they're in a really good spot. I think they could even be S tier.
I'll allow that, but we're leapfrogging Thor over Kingpin.
So Thor goes ahead of Kingpin?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you put him there. I'm going to put him up there. There we go. This happens all the time, guys. We argue throughout it.
Strongly disagree with that for the record.
We've got the 3-threat. We've now got the 5-threat with Red Skull.
Boring.
Look, he's
boring.
He's a very good character outside of Hydra.
Still boring.
But I think he's perfectly serviceable, Quinn. I think he probably sits about here. slap bang in the middle of
I
B
think
tier.
he sits beneath Malekith.
Yeah, you're probably
Like
right, actually.
his affiliation ability is, oh, people get more power. It's very
Yeah,
boring.
yeah.
Like tactics cards, like you're not really gonna pull off world domination very often. There was a chance that you could do it in the past with him and the grunts on Old Sword, but like, yeah, no.
Yeah. Um,
Mm,
Inhumans, Quinn. So, look, Inhumans have not been in a great position for
no.
quite a while, and there's a number of reasons for that. However, I cannot remember the name of the card that I think has gone up in value now as well. The one where it's people
Paragenesis.
drop, yeah, Terrigenesis. That's one where you force people to drop the objectives, right?
No, you roll dice against them, and if you kill them, they drop it, and you immediately score 2 VPs.
You score. Oh, of course it is. Yeah, it's two. Yeah, the VPs thing. That's obviously gone up in value because there's more. There's more of them now where you can use it.
Yep.
Look, we know Black Bolt as a 5 threat leader is not a good character. He brings a very good leadership, and he's got some good characters in there. I think they do need help. I'm going to say they don't quite need as much help as defenders do right now. I think they are.
I think they need even less help than Sin does. To be
Yeah,
honest.
do you know what? You're probably right. You're probably right.
Once again, it's this thing of do they need sweep and changes or not? Do
No,
they need
no, they need
do
tiny
they
little
need
tweaks.
an errata or do they need a release? Right. So for that reason, I kind of want you to shunt Strange up above Sin because in my mind, Sin needs an actual change to her card to be viable, right?
That's a fair point,
More
actually. And maybe
viable,
that's the
'cause
way.
she
That
can
maybe
still-
that's the way we look at it. Yeah,
I think that's a more reasonable way of looking at it because
Yeah.
one, obviously an errata is a bigger deal than a character pack coming out, but two,
Yeah.
a character pack coming out is far more likely
This
than
is
them
true.
being targeted by an errata, and therefore they have a greater, spark of hope, right?
yeah.
Because,
No, I think that's fair
like,
enough.
if Inhumans get a Karnak and Gorgon pack, and Gorgon's like a second leader who's the field leader, head of the Royal Guard, boom, you're set with Inhumans. They probably become one of the better affiliations around because of that innate Inhuman reroll.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Blade, Midnight Suns.
They need some help.
They do need a bit of help, don't they? And I don't know
I think they're
what form it's coming in,
bottom
Quinn,
of like
either.
E tier.
Yeah, they don't. That their bump is really nice, right?
The leadership
it's a really
is
nice leadership.
great. It's just that the leader in and of himself isn't particularly great because one, he's got some defensive tech, but he will die very quickly to energy. What they really need is
Montesi is better for them now, right? That's the thing.
Montesi's better for them. Obviously, Siege of Darkness is still an incredible
very, very
card.
good card. Yeah,
I
very
think
good card.
what they need is some more releases that sort of are intended to be Midnight Suns releases, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not just secondary. And that feels like a bit what the Midnight Suns are, isn't it? Because other than the Blade and Moon Knight pack, it's like everybody else, it's like, it's their second affiliation.
What they need is they need like a couple more low threat characters.
They need a Heimdall Scourge pack, right? Or a Blob and
that
Pyro
sort of
pack, right?
pack. Like,
something of.
I
something
want to
of that
see
ilk.
I want to see Elsa Bloodstone because I think she's real cool.
Be great as a secondary leader as well.
I was thinking more Morbius as a second leader.
Oh yes,
because
yeah,
I know what his leadership would be as well.
Go on.
Your entire team gets healing factor 1
Oh,
because they all become vampires.
And it stacks with healing factor.
No,
so you
if you've already got a healing factor, it doesn't affect you. But if you don't have healing factor, you get healing factor 1. But it means your entire team also gets really good use out of exceptional healing.
Boo hiss boo.
You're not having your fucking Laura heal 3.
Sentinels. Ron played you with them the other day. I played them for a little bit.
I diced him hard.
Yeah. I actually don't think they're a bad affiliation. I think
so. They struggle from a couple things in my mind. The main one being they have 4 affiliated characters.
yes, and that's always going to hurt. And I was going to say the big thing they need is another character pack, right?
Yeah,
That's
they need
you know,
like Nimrod, or they need some like worse, smaller Mark III Sentinels or something.
yeah, maybe something like
Like
that. Yeah,
some Diddy Sentinels. Also, I'm not a particular fan of their leadership.
I don't mind it. It's
Like you
okay.
get to give out power, but equally, like if you're playing mostly affiliated characters, they have the thing where they get 2 power at the end of their go anyway.
Yeah, and it is weirdly, it's only dazed, isn't it? Not KO'd.
Oh, is it? That makes it even
Yeah,
worse.
and we have just spoke about how attrition, and it's really weird
Yeah.
because their leadership leans into attrition, but their play style isn't attrition, is it? Like that's the
No, I mean, like they can boost up like their dice real high on
oh
their
yeah,
builders, right? And then you've got the prime in there to give out rerolls. But like they're just a bit weird. Like I
I
don't
think
know.
they're
They
a
need something,
I think
right?
they're a character pack away from being good. I think they're probably
I think they're probably slightly better than Thanos, brother,
yeah.
Black Order. You know.
I think they're probably about there. I was sort of toitering with that high C. Actually, do they go above Shadowlands Daredevil?
Well, I
Because they've
think we
got a
have to
lot
ask
of
the
control.
question of what does Shadowlands Daredevil need to be viable? Because I think actually the answer ends up being he just needs the crises to be different, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and what I will say is that Shadowlands Daredevil, in certain niche situations, is far more viable than
Yeah,
Sentinel Prime.
I want to
And
make
that's the
another.
reason why you take Kingpin and Shadowlands Daredevil.
I think I want to make another amendment to this seater.
Okay, let's have a little think then.
So, I think it's fair to say that Shadowlands Daredevil and Thanos Black Order have been hit really hard by the crisis changes.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
And the crisis changes, in my mind, are not something that are going to be reverted or changed anytime soon, right?
Are you saying this?
I'm saying that. Because once again, it's the hope at the end of the tunnel thing. Like, we have our leading theory is that we're going to end up in a
No,
cycle
but I
of
would argue, whilst I agree with that, right now as it stands,
so we're going right now rather than
they are better
potential.
than. Yeah.
Okay.
Right
That's
now they
fair.
are better than. Yeah. Cool. Shield.
Real good.
They be real good.
They ain't for me, but they're real good.
They are really, really good. Are they better than Asgard?
No. And I don't think they're better than Kingpin Syndicate. I think they're like bottom 80.
That's a bold statement.
I think there are a couple of real weaknesses to the affiliation. The main one being most of their good 3 threats have awful mystic defense.
This is true. Yeah, so if you've got
So things like books or into Convocation, they really suffer. Like they have that weakness, whereas like Asgard and Syndicate don't necessarily have that like weakness that you can pinpoint. Like,
I think that's fair.
if I asked you what was
still
Asgard's
very, very
weakness-
good, by the way.
Oh yeah, they were exceptional. Iron Sky is a brilliant card. But if I were to ask you, like, what's Asgard's weakness, right?
Lack of 2 threats.
Lack of 2 threats. That's, that's something that can be addressed. Whereas, S.H.I.E.L.'s weakness is they have a bad matchup, right? I don't think Asgard necessarily have a bad matchup just on paper, right? Like, they're
No, I think
always
that's
going to
fair
be able
enough.
to give that fight. Whereas S.H.I.E.L.D. into Convocation, you can, like, if they're both competent players, you can probably predict who's going to win most of the time.
Yeah, overall, though, I think they're still in a very, very good place. And are definitely top, at the top end of where the game is at the moment. Spider Foes, they're just sort of quietly sat there, and they've got a new character in Rhino. I'm not entirely sure that Rhino is or Spider Foes is the best place for him, but I think they're still very, very serviceable. They've got some good characters. For me, they are again that middle of the road. Don't do they don't need any changes. You're not crying out, going, "Oh my god, they're so overpowered," or "Oh my god, where are all the tactics cards?" I think they're in a pretty good spot.
I
Like
think they have had a slight upwards bump with the crisis changes because
they have, yeah.
there
If
are
your
more
opponent's
extracts
got
on the board.
six, if your opponent's got six senators in your hand, and you just go, "Oh, I had a very well laid plan,"
Also,
and
not only
actually,
that, but there's been sort of a sweeping rules change.
okay,
So, you know how in the past, when characters used to roll for things like Spider Infected, and it didn't count as them rolling for it,
yes, they now
that's been
do.
changed.
Yeah,
Which means that characters like Mysterio and Doc Ock, who have, they get a thing for rolling a certain result, where they get power, it's them rolling the dice now. So
I
therefore, if you roll a blank on Mysterio Spider Infected, he gets an extra power for practically nothing. Or if you do a well laid plans and you hit like three people and you roll the crit three on all three rolls, Doc Ock just got well laid plans for free.
yeah,
Pretty good.
I also think that the new positioning. I always forget the name of the card they've got where they put down the little
Oh, scissors
bomb.
traps. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sinister traps. There we go. Like put
Also,
it.
very quickly, just to clarify, if Doc Ock plays sinister traps, he doesn't gain power for
No,
rolling a crit in that because it's the token that rolls the
it's the
dice.
token that
He
does
just
it.
makes
Yeah,
the token exist.
yeah. So yeah, I think they're in a good spot. I think they're
I think they might be just behind Sam.
yeah. I was going to say they're sort of that
Like they're
middle
either
to
side of convo, right? Can we wedge them between the two convo cards?
no.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think they go there.
That's right.
I think we're going to see that they're going to be in a good spot.
I mean, also, we've got the entire year ahead of us. It's
We
been a while
do.
since foes have got anything. I mean, obviously they got
Scorpion and
Rhino
Shocker.
recently. Scorpion,
And
Shocker,
Shocker.
Vulture,
Vulture.
Sandman, The
So many.
Wall. The Wall.
So many. X-Men. I know a lot of people's favourite affiliation. This is one that me and Quinn are probably not going to agree on. But let's leave that one for a second. Let's talk about
Yeah,
Cyclops.
right. So, I have a way that I'm going to grade the two X-Men leaders.
Okay.
And it is through song.
Oh, dear Lord.
Right, so Cyclops is...
Okay.
And Storm is...
That's fair enough, yeah. Excuse me, apologies. Look, I think Cyclops, he's sort of down here, right?
I think he's probably next to Sin.
I think he's probably about
slightly
here.
above Sin, because I think he does need, like, some sort of change. His leadership is just too niche.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So
like
he's
if
kind
they
of
removed
fallen.
the range restriction, or they did something else, like just a slight tweak to it, he'd be real cool. Obviously, you're a lot more likely to get X-Men characters coming out than you are like just pure Cabal characters coming out that specifically helps in. Also, we've got Emma Frost and Psylocke coming that we know of, so maybe they have
both
some
of which will
crazy
be in X-Men.
expenders.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think he's an errata away from being very good, but right now, still playable. And you can play Cyclops under X-Men and win games. Like it's not. He doesn't need an overhaul, does he? He needs a little tweak.
It needs some nudging.
Storm, on the other hand, with the new Crisis,
I played
in
her
a
last night.
very,
she was real good.
very good position. They're not, again, not busted by any stretch of the imagination, but can you believe it, Quinn? We're putting an X-Man in A tier.
I would like a slight amendment.
I think she goes above Nick.
I think she goes above Nick.
Yeah. X-Men are in a really good spot at the moment, guys. For all of you who came into the game because of X-Men, and I know it was a lot of people, you're in a good spot.
I mean,
general rule of thumb is...
guy, I think, really helped them. For those of you that can't see, which is probably all of you, this is the new Logan.
There we go. I was going to say, general rule of thumb is stick to the girls, which was always a good rule of thumb in X-Men, Quinn, wasn't it?
It was,
because the female characters were generally the better
clearly,
ones. However,
it's the X gene, right?
It's the X gene, yes.
That works. But yeah, now there is a good male X-Man.
Yeah, very, very good. Bring some more attrition. Again, it's that balance of attrition, but being able to play being able to both interact with an extract and a secure round one is huge, absolutely huge for X-Men.
But first,
And
like the more X-Men there are in the game, the better first class is going to be.
oh, absolutely,
It's as simple as
absolutely,
that.
yeah. So yeah,
And
really good spot at
also,
the moment.
really hoping Psylocke is a long mover because that makes even more extract jank in AF.
Yes, yeah. Next up is Wakanda with their solo leader of Black Panther. Ups and downs of Wakanda. It's been a long, long, long time since Wakanda had any new
Well, I mean, it was
releases.
literally Storm, right?
Yes, yeah, that is true.
Storm came out
Um,
like a two no, was
2
it
years
two
ago.
years ago?
2 years ago. Yeah,
Bloody hell!
yeah. So a long time. Look, Wakanda have had ups and downs. They are, they are nowhere near the powerhouse that they were previously.
You know, they definitely struggled from the fact that Gamma has gone down in points. Means
Gamma
that they
going down
can't
in
score.
points
Well,
is
like
huge.
I
Yeah.
think that there's been a bit of a shift in terms of they've made extracts in my mind. They've made, generally speaking, they made extracts worth more than secures now.
Yes, yeah. As a general rule of thumb, overall, I think you have more
But
VPs
they've
available via
also
them.
made it more balanced in terms of how many each person gets throughout the course of the game, right?
Yeah,
So, like, it's a bit of a weird situation where Wakanda have very, very good secure play, but they maybe don't have the best extract play, and it's like it's a bit of a weird situation, I think.
yeah, it is. Still perfectly serviceable, Quinn.
Mhm.
I would say absolutely fine. For me, they're probably sat between Malekith and Red Skull in sort of slap bang in that middle of that B tier. I think is
Probably,
about the
yeah.
right place for them.
I think that's fair. They're more interesting than Red Skull, so that gives them a point.
That is true. Yes, and I've just realised. Let's move this here. You can't see what I'm doing, Quinn, but I can. There we go. Just so we can actually see the bottom of the D tier now. Okay, Quinn. Brand new affiliation. Weapon X. So this is a card. You know how much we love these.
Good boy.
I'm going to say, Quinn, I think one of the best leaderships in the game.
I think you're
Adding
entirely wrong, and
adding
I
two
know there are
defense
others that
dice
agree with me.
is huge. I just no for me personally, I love it because I love the attrition game and being up in somebody's face and being
I
able
do
to
have
roll
a
extra
complaint,
dice.
though, Rich.
Go on.
We've only got two leaders here. They've got three leaders.
Well, they do have three leaders because as of right now, you can play a character that is not affiliated to Weapon X as a leader in Wolverine. You don't want to do that. And it's weird, Quinn.
Imagine there's a Wolverine cut like picture on here, not Logan, proper Wolverine. Shit,
And it's
Wolverine.
somewhere down, like,
Like,
look where Corvus Glaive is, jump on about 19 spaces and it's there.
yeah, about
So, this is really weird because these guys are in a somewhat unique position in that you can play Weapon X, you can have one or both of these characters in your squad, and still choose to not play a leader. So the
yeah.
big question comes, Quinn, is if
The
you
card
had
worth it.
if you had to pick a leader, which one do you think is best? And then the other question is it worth picking either of them? So of the two, who do you think is the better to put the card on? And it's ultimately, isn't it? It's like who's more survivable, right? Because that's
I don't even think it's that. I think the answer is Laura, just because you are more likely to play her in every game.
and she's a
Because she's a
leader.
threat cheaper, and she's not that much less survivable. In essence, she trades a health on either side for better Mystic defense than Logan has.
Yeah. Now I have used this card, and I think you can you can play it, but taking up a tactics card slot really, really hurts it. So because of that, Quinn, I'm going to say that these guys go here. Here and here. I put them in the same category. as they need to change the rules on these tactics card leaderships.
I am going to heavily disagree here, just for the sheer fact that their leadership is actually good, where Corvus's is fucking
That's
shit
a fair
anyway.
point. That's a fair point.
Like, yeah. Once again, with this sort of thought process, they need a rules change to make it viable, right?
Yeah, whereas...
It has to be a rules change that's coming, because they're doing a lot of these leadership cards now. We know that Emma Frost is coming with a card in her box, which is just weird, because it could just be on her card. But I think, for one, I think Emma's White Queen leadership is going to be double-sided and have White King on it. But...
And you think it's going to be Magneto?
Magsy boy.
Yeah, I do like
but
the
I
idea
think,
with
like,
that.
you know, in a world where that change has been made, where do you put these characters? And I know you really like this leadership, but let's be realistic here, because it's not in any way busted if it's not costing a card.
It's not just about the leadership, it's about the affiliation as a whole and how competitive they are. Actually, with that, I mean, I think that's the problem, is right now, if I was to say how competitive a Weapon X, I would say B tier. I would say they are perfectly fine and there's no problem with it. However, that is by not using this card. By using this card, I think they go down in value, right? And that's where they're at. So hence why they're C. Not with this card, I think they go B. This card coming into play, a big part of your 10 and not part of your 5, I think they go into that sort of probably around about the Convocation level, right? So
yeah,
they
that's
are
sort of high B.
They're sort of B plus type level.
I'm glad you've seen some sense rather than thinking it would be the most broken thing in the game.
Oh no, I still think it's a very, very good leadership.
It's good. It's not like insane.
Yeah. Web Warriors next. Aaron's favourite. We've got 2. We've got a 5 threat, obviously, in Amazing Spider-Man, and then we've got Miles, who was the OG leader. Amazing Spider-Man Quinn doesn't see a lot of play as a leader, and I think
he doesn't see
one
a lot
of the reasons
generally. I think
one of the reasons is because of the fact that Miles is so good. For me, he sort of falls into that category a little bit of Daredevil, obviously for completely different reasons. But if you were to put both of them in your roster, because I think there are some niche scenarios where ASM can be better than Miles, just like Daredevil can be better than Kingpin, whereas, but I think very much Miles is the favoured choice, and then you use ASM as and when it's appropriate. And for that reason, I think, you know, it's probably about here. I think as a leadership, and then I kind of, you know, go up here, and I would probably.
I think above Nick, below Storm.
I think it's about there, right? For Miles.
Yeah,
obviously
they've lost a little bit of something with Cap becoming worse, right?
Yes, yeah. The single extract or lack of single extract does hurt them, because that was a big thing for them. But they still have a lot of tricks up their sleeve.
Yeah, also, they're potentially getting bolstered by, you know, the release of Jess, right?
This is true.
She hasn't been listed as a web warrior, and honestly, I think of the affiliations she might be in, it's the least likely of them. Because even though she's Spider-Woman, I do not associate her with the rest of the webheads at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. It'll be interesting. It'll be the first ever 5 affiliated character, but we will see. Winterguard Quinn.
Her leadership's great. The rest of them are awful.
He's good. Crimson Dynamo is a very good character.
There we go. We're done. We don't have to talk about the rest. Please don't talk about the bear. I don't need to be sad.
I know, we won't talk about the bear. What I'm going to say, Quinn, is I'm going to put them in that kind of same category as, you know, sort of Cyclops and something, but they're a couple of
releases
they're a box away from being good, right? They're one box away from being good.
Probably 2 boxes. You need, like, I think it's Red Widow she's called. You need Volstock, their version of Vision. You need Perrin, and you need Chernobog.
Yeah, there we go. Right.
There you
So but they've got a good foundation in a couple of releases time to be a very, very good affiliation. I think in
Yeah.
that leadership, and then that brings us round, Quinn, to maybe
Your favourite character ever, who didn't disappoint you at all.
the character that makes me the saddest in this entire game, because I love Cabal. And what do? They gave the Sentinels the attack he should have had.
He broke drop off, Rich.
I still don't know how. X-Force are not competitive.
Now, there is a chance this changes with Psylocke's release. If she's absolutely bonkers and works real well with X-Force.
Remind me, Quinn, Logan and New Sabretooth, are they X-Force?
No.
Okay. Let's scrap that one then. They're not in a good space. They are not in a good space. So much so because they're only attrition, right? They have no other play. They don't have a plan B, right? They've got a 5-threat leader with a subpar leadership. Poor tactics cards. He's not as bad as Dormammu, but he's D tier.
He's not. This is your personal bias showing massively. He's not D tier.
They did my boy dirty.
I agree they did your boy dirty, but I think, he's just above Dynamo.
Above?
Yeah, I think X-Force are in a much better spot than Winter Guard are, and I don't think you can reasonably argue with that.
I'm not even sure they are.
They've got more than 4 characters.
Maybe we have a Winter Guard. Okay, yeah, I was going to say they've only got 4 characters of Wakanda, but they don't. They have 5 now, don't they?
Exactly, yeah. I'm not going to let you put him in D.
But Quinn, okay, let me.
Like, if you could somehow rationalise this in a way that makes me agree with you, I will be absolutely shocked.
I'm going to go back to your logic. I might not be able to fight for D, but I'm going to go back to your logic. Inhumans, Defenders, and Winter Guard, the things they all have in common are they need releases. Agreed?
I know what you're going to say.
Cabal needs a fundamental change to his leadership.
This is potentially true. However,
I think
X-Force stand to gain a great deal from releases as well, though. Because I don't think releases fix Weapon X, Sin Cabal, or Cyclops X-Men. Right? They are broken on that fundamental level because releases would not help them. Right? I think the advent of Psylocke and other X-Force characters could be what can push X-Force further than potentially, release let's have a hypothetical scenario.
I want him there.
I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario, Rich.
Okay.
Right? 2 boxes get released. Okay? Each for Winter Guard and X-Force. So they both get 2 boxes. They both get 4 characters added to their ranks.
Yeah.
Who stands to gain more? As the dust settles and those 4 boxes with 2 characters each has been released, which of those affiliations comes out on top?
Winter Guard, and I'll tell you why, Quinn. Because the fundamentals of their the fundamentals and the tactics cards and the leadership they've got in place are better. They may not have access to as many or as better characters, but the fundamental of the affiliation, the core of the affiliation in Winter Guard is better than X-Force.
I disagree on the tactic card front. I think both affiliations have absolutely dog shit tactic cards. I don't think tactic cards ever come into this conversation. Fucking hell.
Even just leadership, I think it's fundamentally better. But there we go, guys. There we go. I mean, look, it's semantics, right? At this point, whether it goes there or there, isn't it?
Semantics is like our thing.
I know it really is, isn't it? But overall, Quinn, you can see there the trend, right? Big tall lists with 3 characters wide, 4 characters wide at higher threats is really not where this game is at right now. At least, and again, this is always just in our opinion.
This is also in this specific time frame. Like we'll revisit this in about 6 months, and it'll be completely different, right?
It will be. It will be. It's always changing, which is the cool thing about the game. And as you say, Quinn, a single release can have ripple effects. A single FAQ can have ripple effects. The good thing is, guys, is that any of these, even Dark Dimension, even if Hulkbuster is your favourite character, you can still make it work, right? Just because we think it's one of the worst affiliations and leaderships in the game doesn't mean that you can't make it work, right? So go and have fun with all of them. There'll be some that you'll see will jump up when hopefully blanket rules changes come. But yeah, there we go. That is our first tier list of 2023, Quinn. And as always, fun. As always, a couple of arguments. But right now,
definitely more than a couple, and I'm aware that this is an argument, and therefore that's increasing the statistic, which means that I'm even more likely to be right because that's definitely increased it above 2.
But yeah, overall, Quinn, what's your thoughts on where the game is at the moment? Do you think it's in a better position post all the changes at the back end of the year?
100%. I think the game is in a better position now than it was this time last year.
Yeah, I will.
Like this time last year was the last time we got a Crisis release, right?
Yes.
And then we had barren, desolate wasteland of releases. Also, it seems like we're ramping up releases a little bit. I wonder if that might be to get some stuff out this year before the big Shatterpoint release. Because I imagine there's going to be a big studio focus on that, like when that happens. Hopefully we get to see some more like Spider Foes. As always, give me Odin AMG. Stop being cowards.
Yeah, that's definitely one you want. But yeah, I agree. I do agree, because I think we're in a better position now than we were last year. I think the changes have reinvigorated people. And look, it's good to mix things up, right? You don't want the same leaders and the same affiliations at the top of the list consistently. You want releases to. It needs to be a cycle, doesn't it? Right. Somebody goes to the top, and then it's a while before they get a release, and then they get a release, and guess what? They go back to the top, and then they come back down, and that's kind of the cycle that AMG have got now.
The wheel is ever turning.
The wheel is ever turning. The river is ever flowing. But yeah, there we go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that video.
We are ever arguing.
We are ever arguing. Yeah, if you could leave a like, it'd really help. If you want to support us even further, we do have our Patreon, where from as little as £1 a month, you can help support the channel. We have a Discord. Go over there, check it out. There's like 700 people on there now. Catch us for our weekly live show, 5:30 UK time, every Wednesday, where we round up that week's and the back end of the previous week's MCP news. We cover all the new characters, any new releases, plus anything else that's going on in the world of MCP. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
Yeah.